Hey there. Thanks for joining us. I am Sarah Polyakov. So let me guess. You and your partner already had the talk, and maybe it was in bed with champagne on New Year's Eve night. You said things like, "This year is gonna be different. We're gonna make communication so much better than last year. We're gonna make more time for each other, right? More time. We're going to be more present. We might put down our phones and actually be present. And now it's barely been a few days. And what happened? You've already gone back to those same patterns, or you may have not started them.
Here's the thing, your relationship doesn't need a resolution, it needs a revolution. And that makes people very, very uncomfortable. Revolutions require you to burn down the pretty lies you've been telling yourself. Today, we're talking about what actually kills relationships in the new year. And it's not necessarily what the Instagram therapists are telling you. And we'll also cover a few practical, actionable steps. I'm Zev Halpern, and I'm coming to you from the political epicenter of the world, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Hello, all.
Hello, and I am Sarah Polyakov coming at you from Seattle, where it's always raining, but the coffee is always strong and hot, and the conversations can be always stronger. This is the Discover Your Amazing Edge Spicy Friday episode, and we are broadcasting nationwide, coast to coast, and even worldwide. So, can
Happy
you
New
remember?
Year. Happy New Year, Sarah.
Happy New Year's, Ev. I know we forgot our manners. So, to the audience, can you remember the last time you felt truly heard or seen by your spouse? Can you remember that?
So, there's a lot here to unpack, and we've put kind of a jam packed episode, and we hope we can get it all to you. But we'll start with something Sarah and I are planning in the new year, and that's to have a 2-day seminar, which which has been done a few times before, called Ultimate Stimulation. It's for
Ultimately,
couples. It's really a very straight up. It's talking about the things that a lot of people don't really talk about. It's a very comfortable kind of setting, and I hope that as we promote it, you'll tune in and check it out. People who have gone to it before have come out of it with amazing tools, feeling better about themselves, and most importantly, they had their eyes wide open. And that, for couples to have their eyes wide open, is extremely healthy. And so I hope you'll avail yourself of the opportunity. And it is sure to put a zing in your relationship. There's no question about it. I've had people tell me that it changed the whole trajectory of their relationship because they started thinking in different ways and they started thinking about different things and they started thinking about what each other needs. But in terms of the topic today, the whole issue of making resolutions and not really having the resolve to do it, and after a few days or a few weeks or a few months, things are pretty much back to the way they were. It's very natural. It happens all the time, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. But the issue is, what are you going to do about it? Here's one thing that people do, especially in the age of social media: they perform happiness. They act like they're happy. They tell everybody they're happy. Everybody, you don't have to tell people your problems, of course. And behind every door in the world, who knows what's going on in there? And we definitely shouldn't try to figure out what's going on in there. But these days, because of social media, we perform a lot. We perform for our friends, we perform for the people we know, we perform for our relatives. And all of a sudden, we hear so-and-so got divorced, so-and-so got separated. What happened?
They were so happy on Facebook. Didn't you see that post they put out a week ago? They were smiling and saying they were more in love than ever.
Really, they were on that hike, grabbing at each other, and all that on that video. It takes courage to initiate relationship change. Courage is a big aspect of this. And you're going to find that one of the biggest solutions to trying to get a relationship back on track, it takes a little courage to do it. And also, for me and for everybody, and Sarah, isn't change, it's exhausting. Change is exhausting, especially when you're already drained. I mean,
it can be, yes. Real life gets in the way. For example, I was up all night because one of my dogs has pancreatitis. So I get to be the one who's up all night with this poor, very sick dog who's having all kinds of episodes of all kinds of things that I have to clean up all night long. And so real life gets in the way. And then I come to the podcast, which is great. And I'm so happy to be here. But I'm sure that happens to you too. You say you're going to do something, real life gets in the way. And then there you have it.
Also, relationships that are troubled, or when one person is more troubled than the other and the other person doesn't seem to be present and understand that there's trouble, it's draining. And it's hard to go on. It's hard to deal. And a lot of people experience this, more people than you can even imagine. And, the reality is that the whole issue of relationship change, it's not always about trying harder. It's about getting brutally honest. And getting brutally honest, it takes courage, it takes resolve, and let's put it this way, it's not something that everybody just feels so natural about. What are they going to say? They're going to put me off. They're going to yell. What's their reaction going to be? They're going to throw plates. Who knows what's going to happen if I'm brutally honest about how I'm feeling? I mean, in a relationship, what is more sacred? What is more intimate than a place, of a relationship? And it seems that if you can't be brutally honest about your feelings about what's going on, where else can you be? But even with that, it's clearly understandable why it's so difficult to do this. And, couples start with January plans. They go, we're going to have date nights. We're going to have better communication. We're going to have more intimacy. The resolutions feel damn good, don't they, Sarah? I mean,
they do. They feel like progress until there's no progress.
Right. I mean, it feels like, oh God, he heard me. She recognizes something. Wow.
In that moment. Yes, that happens.
The problem is that people choose dysfunctional over vulnerable growth. We choose dysfunction. It's kind of like comfortable dysfunction. We're familiar with it. We know what it is. It's not new to us. It's kind of like day to day, week to week, month to month. But vulnerable growth, that's a whole nother deal. That's where that's a place where you're tiptoeing, where you got to put your foot in the water, maybe even your pinky toe in the water, because that's the uncomfortable truth. You tolerate neglect. I'll tolerate your neglect if you tolerate mine. What do you think, Sarah?
Sadly, this is the case for many people who are in partnerships. I don't think it's something that's spoken out loud. I think that it's a subconscious agreement that both people make.
Because it's an easier thing to do. It's an easier thing to do than, move up, up the ante, and move towards some kind of resolution, or be brutally honest about what the hell's going on. Hey, honey, guess what? You're not meeting my needs on 1, 2, and 3, not 1 through 50, because nobody can deal with 50 things, a list of 50 things, but you can deal with 1, 2, 3. You know, people pretend to be happy while they're dying inside. And it's hard to read that. You know, a human with a happy face, sometimes some of us can read it. You know, I can see beyond that little smile that you're putting across that you're really not happy. Going through the motions versus having real conversations. Scrolling phones across from each other. People, you know, they sit and they're with each other. They're together, but they're far apart. They're like you know, planets away.
So common today. That is so common these days. I've even seen people do this at dinner, out at restaurants. It's so sad. They could be talking to each other.
It's really, it's like activity without intimacy. It's just a distraction. But some couples need that distraction, and you know, I'm not throwing that thing to the curb. I understand it. People do want to be with each other. The problem is that they don't. There's a wall, and the wall is social media. The wall is the phone. You know, they're in the same room. They're sitting in the same room, and they're playing video games, and the other person's looking at whatever they're doing. They're not together.
Right.
If you want 2026 to be the year that your relationship moves off this shelf of being that way, having it be the status quo, you know, we'll call it the negative status quo. There are 3 conversations you might want to consider having, and this is up to you, and it's about timing.
And these are 3 conversations that you might actually want to avoid, and that may cause you to actually want to run out the door, because they can be that hard. They require vulnerability.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of honesty is the kind of honesty that makes you want to throw up. It just does.
Yes.
Yes. Brutal honesty correlates with throwing up. You know, it's just.
People can't, it's worse than stage fright sometimes. So one of the questions is, who are we becoming, and do we like it? That's a hard one. Who are we becoming? Because you have to take a snapshot of that relationship, of where it is now, and then you have to critique it. Do we really like who we are becoming? And if the answer is no, that can be very hard.
Because relationships are developmental. You know, relationships are extremely developmental. You get married and you start, and if you look at the progression, some people really don't progress. And but you know, in this first conversation, what would you do? Not who you were or hope to be, like Sarah said, who you are right now. This is about the present and the future of what you're trying to get to. What does it look like? You have to kind of, what does it look like, and what do you want it to look like?
And you can break it down into further questions that are maybe easier, like, you know, what are some goals, some positive goals that we have for the future? Or how can we look at problems together in a way that actually brings us together rather than tears us apart?
Do we celebrate wins, or do we secretly resent them? You know, are we building something? Are we building a relationship, or are we running out some kind of clock? You know, the clock, you know, really the destination isn't in focus, but the clock is running, and it's just kind of time is elapsing, and we're doing the same thing. We're neglecting, but we're trying to be present. We're acting like we're happy, but we're not. But a lot of couples really haven't looked at each other in years. They haven't looked at their situation. They kind of resolve, this is the way it is. And they maybe some days they go, is that all there is? Is this what I signed up for? Is this really what, you know, how I'm going to live out my life? And a lot of people, when they're faced with that one, they go, what am I going to do? And
some people just say, this is how life is. This is how my parents had it. This is how my grandparents had it. So this is it. And I should just be grateful for my kids or my job or my hobbies or some other thing.
And look, there's nothing wrong with that. This is human life. But
Yeah.
human life, so the issue of human life is you have the power to change things. You have the power to get out. You have the power to see if this is going to, satisfy you emotionally, sexually, all that stuff. I mean, how can couples not be able to talk about the most intimate things? Well, that's really more common than anything, because
Right.
people live in their own bubble,
And the deepest intimacy isn't necessarily sexual, it's emotional. It's how deep can you go emotionally? That's where intimacy is.
and we're busy. Life is hectic. Life is tough. There's a lot of challenges, children, work. The list is long. However, strong relationships correlate with success in life. People who live in strong relationships where they're close, where they talk, where they feel supported, correlates with every single thing in life that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And it bears it out.
Yeah.
Money, work, success, opportunity, those kinds of things open when we're secure and supported, and we're not faking it. We're not faking it. Because if we're faking it, somebody's not happy. Somebody might be faking it, the other person's not happy. In the second conversation, what are you pretending not to know?
Yes. What are you pretending not to know? That's actually a big deal. And a lot of people may not even be aware that they're pretending not to know something. It's just a comfort zone that their brain goes to. So if you don't know your partner's needs, then you don't need to fulfill them, right? That's one thing.
Absolutely.
And, or worse, I'm going to bring up infidelity. If there might be infidelity going on with your partner because the relationship's gotten stale.
Yeah, sexual attraction is gone.
Sometimes people pretend not to know that there might be other people on the horizon because that feeling freaks them out, even though they feel like they can't do anything about it at home with their spouse.
They even sometimes think they married the wrong person. Sometimes people go, they take this question and they go, and I've heard this many times right here in this office, did I make a mistake? Did I marry the wrong person? Did I marry somebody who's like my father, who I had resentments about or something like that?
And I say there is no such thing as the wrong person. Not really, because you're always learning lessons and you tend to mirror in your relationship and look for in your relationship whatever you grew up with. Now, I'm talking about that in status quo relationships. I'm not talking about relationships where there's domestic violence or worse.
Absolutely. Abusive is, off the table.
That's off the table. That's a no. That's one.
Time to go, time to change, time to really figure it out and not be, please don't be.
You did marry the wrong person if you're being abused. And
Absolutely.
if your children are being abused. Yes, you did.
Listen, Sarah, your relationship's only as healthy as your willingness to face the truth. And that's really what it comes down to. And people have to know that. And again, life is busy and people don't want to hear it and they don't have the patience and they don't have the stamina and nobody wants to be criticized. I mean, in a room with thousands of people, if you ask them how many people love to be criticized, you're not going to get many hands. How many people like to be confronted about their shortcomings? You're not going to get very many hands. This is the human condition. And we're talking about something that flies above the noise of human condition. This is the person who wants to have these conversations is somebody who recognizes, I have to give this a chance. I have to try every single thing that I possibly can to make it work. And then I have to make a decision. one way or the other. I'm going to live with this, or I'm not going to live with this. And we are all, we all have that ability to choose. But this is a way to find out, where it's all going. It's a delusion to think that things are going to change on their own without resolve or without action. The kind of like the paradox. It's kind of a destruction paradox, and it's truth won't destroy you, ignoring it will. Again, the truth won't destroy you,
ignoring
the truth will. I mean,
right?
How many things in our life does that apply to? So many different things. And then there's a third conversation. What?
Yeah, right. What do you need from me? What do you actually need from me? That's the third conversation, right?
Right. No, not vague. Not vague. This isn't the time to be vague. It's not the time to be, it's a time to be very specific, and it's a time of vulnerability. You've resolved in your own mind, you know what? I just have to figure this out. And the only way I'm going to figure it out is if I take the risk, get a little brave, because bravery and courage definitely better than sitting back and just dealing with this for time and weeks and months and years and many years till death do us part. There are people certainly who have lived that life because they've been taught, you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. Supposed to, okay, you can supposed to do a lot of things, but when it comes down to your happiness and it comes down to the reality, you want to be close with the person who you're with. And there are ways to do that. Look, the book, The Love Languages, that many people have read, it's kind of a primer in how people can serve each other, how you can love each other, and what are the things you can do. And it bears out. But the reality is, even with the love languages, you still got to do something to enact it. And there's a certain piece of vulnerability in asking for what you need. Please, husband, be more present in my life. I feel that you're like 1,000 miles away. I don't feel close to you. And without that, I don't feel the love. I'm not feeling the love. What do you think, Sarah? Feel the love.
People are not feeling the love. They feel 1,000 miles away. They need to be the opposite. There's that Scottish song from the 90s about I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more.
Not a song I like so much, but the words are good.
Yes, it's not my favorite, but the message is just to be the man who walked 500 miles to get to your door. I mean, look, that's a good thing.
The issue of music and love and relationships, come on, country music and everything, it's founded on, on my cheating heart, and all that. I mean, it's just the way.
And Jolene.
Every song.
Jolene. Right?
My love is like an hour and a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah.
But look, do you need to beg? Do you need to always beg to initiate sex with each other? That whole thing. People beg and then they give up.
Can I give you a solution? Can I give you a solution to that?
Please.
So this is a story that I heard from. I bought a Papillon puppy last month, and I've kept in touch with the breeder. And she is hoping for another litter of puppies. And one of the females is in her receptive mode right now. But even though she's in her receptive mode, every time the male comes toward her, she sits down and blocks him. Because the female dog has to move her tail aside. in order to get the job done. She has to actually stand up, move her tail aside. This female dog just sits down and she won't move. And so this Papillon breeder told me that the male dog actually started begging, sitting on his hind legs and putting his paws up and begging. So she realized enough is enough, and she locked him alone in a bedroom until the deed got done. That was it, just those two in a bedroom until the deed got done. And sometimes as humans, we can take a lesson from that. Lock yourself in the bedroom until the deed gets done.
Sarah says, take a lesson from the dogs.
I did.
Take a lesson from the dogs. But in this third conversation, fight for us, because right now I feel like I'm the only one who cares. This is something that it's okay to say. This is brutal honesty. Brutal honesty. Again, as I said before, this is the kind of honesty that makes us want to throw up, and it's just the way that it is. But the fear of this, the fear is what stands between the relationship you have and the one you want. Again, this fear of saying the things that are really bottom line is what stands between the relationship you have and the one that you want. So fear, look, there are books written about fear, feel the fear, it's whether it's irrational, whether it's rational, whether you're scared of your spouse. And, I would add here, if you're scared of your spouse, please don't do the things we're talking about.
Oh, exactly.
Because of that, it is not a recipe to get you hurt, to get you in any kind of jeopardy. This is in a regular relationship where there's no abuse, there's no hitting, there's no verbal, screaming and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Look, relationships get crazy. We all know that. TV has taken that to the max. We've seen it in movies, but it really does occur in real life.
48 hours. What happens on 48 hours? Right? All those stories.
Whatever. If the fear is that harm will come to you, please don't do conversation 1, 2, or 3. Don't do brutal honesty. Don't go there. But if your relationship is, reasonably peaceful, but it's kind of status quo and you're not getting what you need, which is for the most part, many relationships, then go there. But please, Sarah and Zev are adamant about abusive relationships because we've seen enough of them and heard, the consequences.
It's
of what that does to a person and their future and the whole bit.
Right.
They didn't choose to be in it; they got in it, but the scars are deep. So don't go there. Look, we're talking about honest rebuilding. That's what we're talking about here. Something still worth fighting for underneath all the resentment. Stop the resolutions. Start real changes. This is a time of year to think about these kinds of things. But truth is, every time of year is the time to think about these things. It's just we have rituals. Humans have January 1st as a time where they go, oh God, another year's passed. The shit's still the same. And I got to do something about it. Address root causes, not surface arguments. What's the bottom line? You've lived with this person. Take responsibility for your own healing first.
Right.
Again, stop performing happiness. You can do it. Other people don't have to know your business. That's for sure.
They don't. They don't have to know your business.
They don't have to know your business. However, you need to know, that you're performing happiness. Performing happiness is just basically what it's going to get you is nothing. It's going to get you because it sends no message. There's nothing clear about it. It's false and fake. And but look, it's a coping mechanism. And again, over here at Discover Your Amazing Ed Spicy Friday, we understand about real human life. and real human life. It's not easy, and nobody said that it is.
Yeah, there's no promise.
Getting help for your relationship, it's not a last resort. It's an investment in your future. It's not, don't look at it, so many people I've seen for so many years, they see the therapist or the coach after 2 years of, saying, I'll change, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll make it happen, I'll do everything you want me to do, and nothing happens. And then time goes by, and then basically, instead of being something that's an investment, it's something that turns into the last resort. And then people come in when they're angry as hell, when somebody already has their foot out the door, they're done. And I've seen many people who come in for a formality. Okay, I went to, person, I went to the coach, relationship coach, like you wanted me to, whoopee-doo, and it didn't do anything, and I'm leaving. I'm done. They were already done before they went to the therapist or before they went to have the scary conversations. Okay, figure out a way to have the scary conversations, figure out a good time, figure out a way to make it work. Have the scary conversations about money, sex, and survival. These are the things that you need to do.
Yep.
So these are the conversations that you can have. Here's a couple. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, and maybe warn your spouse before these conversations. You can kind of set the mood prior to having these conversations. Make sure that it's on a day when your spouse hasn't experienced or expressed that he or she has had extreme stress that day at work, or extreme stress with the children, or extreme stress with finances. So if you're coming in to this conversation on the coattails of stress, this is not setting you up for success. So choose the day. That's very important.
And here's 2 ways you can go about doing it. Here's option A. Have what's called the brutal honesty date. A brutal honesty date. 2 hours, no distractions. Each person gets 30 minutes to answer what's one truth about our relationship I've been too scared to tell you. Wow, that's a whole heavy duty reservoir of stuff. That could be, and we could think of it like throwing a boulder in the lake. It isn't going to be a kerplunk. It's going to be a huge kerplunk. But there's nothing wrong with a huge kerplunk. A huge kerplunk is something that can enact change.
Right. But it may start a tsunami for real.
And if you can do it, get the other person listens, and the other person tries to, well, what exactly are you saying? Are you saying this? Are you saying that? Make sure everybody knows what was being said, not their interpretation or some kind of rose-colored way that they're looking at it. The brutal, honest way of what's really going on.
Yes. Tell them, though, at the same time, when you get to each point, tell them how they can fix it. Because if people are just given information and they don't know how they can fix it with you, that's also setting you up for very bad dinner or situation, in my opinion.
You're absolutely correct, Sarah. Then in the final bit of that brutal honesty date, what's one thing you can change this month? Take one thing, one thing you can change this month. That would be amazing.
And tell them exactly what they need to do. Like, what does it look like to you, not to them? Don't let them guess, because that will drive a person up the wall. It will drive 2 people up the wall, actually.
Be clear. Be clear.
Be very clear, because I've been in that situation where I've been given an instruction on what I need to do better. And then I say, so how can I do that? And the answer is, I don't know. Don't be the person who says, I don't know. If you don't have an answer to it, don't bring it up. That's kind of my rule, because then that just makes things worse, right? You're giving somebody feedback, but then you don't have a way for them to fix it. Then what?
Absolutely.
We're talking about constructive conversations here.
So here's option B, the reset ritual. Rituals are very important for couples. Couples that have healthy rituals, it correlates with happiness. If they do something they both like, during the week, or they do something they both like a few times a month, these are very important. Rituals are important to human beings, and rituals aren't religious necessarily. They're things people do that both of them feel comfortable about, and there's a certain ease, and even more so, they look forward to it. They look forward to this. It's not kind of like a date night. It's not an obligatory date night. Not all date nights are, but for some people, I've heard people say, if I go on another date night, I think I'm gonna I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out of my mind. But here's what you do in the reset ritual. 3 questions. 3 questions. Is that 3? Yeah, 3. 3 questions. What made you feel loved this week? What made you feel loved this week? What made you feel distant this week? Question 2. What's one thing I can do differently next week? If you can do something differently, that already spells hope to a lot of people. That sends a message like, hey, there's possibilities. I'm hopeful because you did something different, because the humdrum status quo just got moved. And that's a hard thing to do. And if you can do it, that would be great. Look, 10 minutes of these three questions, just 10 minutes, 10 minutes of your life. Non-negotiable, no phones. No phones, not negotiable. You're talking to each other. You're looking at each other. You're not distracted. 10 minutes. That would be a wonderful thing. We only know how much time people actually spend talking to their spouse during the course of a month. Some people would be very scary to know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Then there's the nuclear option. Option 3. There's a nuclear option, and nuclear means
yeah,
blow it up.
Out of the water.
Blow the thing up. Blow it. Here it is. And this is not an easy one, and you'd have to be ready to do this one. If I knew our relationship would end in 5 years, what would I regret not saying or doing? If I knew our relationship would end in 5 years, what would I regret not doing or saying?
That's actually a good one. That's actually a good question in my mind. It reminds me of the deathbed question. Like, if you were on your deathbed, what regrets would you have? What things have you left unsaid that you need to say? What love do you need to show others so that you can be at peace? So it can be very informative and actually a very peaceful experience if approached correctly.
And truthfully, for some relationships, it's just a very apropos question. And whether your spouse answers the question there or not, guess what they're going to do? They're going to take that question for a ride. Mm-hmm. That question is, meant to be taken on a trip. That thing is going to move. They're going to think about it. They're not just going to put it out. They might forget it right there because it's hard to cope with a question like that. But later on, it's going to come back to them, and they're going to think about it, and they'll probably have a great deal of effect about where you guys are headed.
Right.
But anyway, I hope this has been informative. This is a really important topic. It's a topic, of course, for the beginning of any year, because humans mark time, and January 1st, New Year's, is a huge line of demarcation for human beings. You set patterns, you set goals, you set business goals, you do all that stuff. So I want to remind you that we're here most Fridays And we have a website on the way, and it's going to be really something. And we're really looking forward to rolling it out. Actually, sometime later this month, towards the end of the month of January. Again, we're going to be promoting unlimited stimulation, ultimate, excuse me. It used to be called unlimited stimulation. We have changed it to ultimate stimulation because relationships need to be stimulated.
They do.
So I hope you'll tune in. We'll send you specifics, and we'll have different times. We'll do it a few times. And again, couples who have taken part in this, really it changes the trajectory of your relationship. It's certainly something that you're going to tune into because it's extremely stimulating.
And if you're looking for a last resort, this is it. I mean, really.
It could be a last resort, and it could be an amazing addition.
Well, it can be the last resort that saves you, is what I'm saying. It could be the very thing that saves you. So,
right. Or if you're just started out your relationship, it could be the thing that really teaches
spices it up.
And teaches you about the things that you can do to spice up your relationship. And
you can't lose with this program. You win with this program.
And so much more.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for joining us today. We have a lot. I hope we've left you with a lot of things to think about. And please reach out to us. Sarah and I both were on LinkedIn. Your Amazing Edge is on LinkedIn. We wrote a book, as we've told you before, Discover Your Amazing Edge.
Yeah.
Available on Amazon. So please avail yourself of this. Any chapter you read, if you open the book and read a chapter, you didn't have to read the chapter before. There's something to be gained from every single chapter.
Exactly.
But anyway, look, have an awesome 2026. Sarah, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year's
all the people that you care about and everybody. And we look forward to seeing you again next time.
And
have a great week.
Have a great week.